welcome to my kitchen. I'm Judith, and today we are going to do a pistachio crusted pork tenderloin with a mustard sauce. So for the crust, we need roasted, salted pistachios. I have unsalted. I do prefer them unsalted. Do use salted if you want, and we're going to have to shell them, so you end up with those. If you can't get a hold of pistachios or you find them too expensive, you can mix in some walnuts. We are going to run these through the food processor to crush them up, so you could add some walnuts with them. And we're going to need some dry mustard powder and some thyme. You can use fresh thyme. I don't happen to have any at the moment because my plant died and I haven't replanted. And of course a little bit of salt and pepper and whatnot. So we're going to get the food processor going and crush up our nuts and then coat our pork loin. Then we will make our sauce. So my pork loin is just over a pound. I'm going to use, I think it was 100 grams of shelled pistachios. And these are roasted but unsalted. You could use salted if you like. 2 garlic cloves, just chopped a little bit. Get the lid off here. We're going to do, there we go, half a tablespoon of dry yellow mustard. And since my pistachios are unsalted, I am going to do a half a teaspoon of salt. And we're going with, I have dried thyme. If you have fresh thyme, do use that. So a half a teaspoon of dried thyme, a little bit of fresh ground pepper, and let's get the lid on and get it all ground up. Right. You want to pulse this, you don't want to turn it into paste. Okay, finely ground. That is just great. Put that aside. So we're going to spread that on a baking sheet. And the next step is to coat our pork tenderloin. And don't forget to remove the silver skin from your tenderloin, because otherwise it's going to be a bit chewy. I've done this with other meats and with pork tenderloin and with spare ribs, so there are lots of videos of me removing the silver skin. Now you've got your nuts all ground up and seasoned, and you've got your pork tenderloin, the silver skin. We're going to take the tenderloin and place it in our nuts. And I'll just fold that end over. Just that little end, because it's so thin. I'll just fold it over. And we're going to just treat it as part of the thicker end. And just press everything in. Now what you need is a baking dish that's large enough to take the whole tenderloin, just like that, laid out flat. And you want to line it with parchment paper. So now we're going to put our tenderloin in there. And I am deliberately turning that little folded over flap down. I'm just going to do it at an angle as it just barely fits lengthwise, and I don't want it to be too crowded. Okay, it's ready for the oven. That's going to go into a 375-degree oven. for 45 minutes to an hour. I've seen recipes say as little as 30 minutes, but yeah, it is never cooked well enough for me. And I like my meat fairly rare. For our mustard sauce to go with our pork tenderloin, we need some butter, grainy mustard, Dijon mustard, heavy cream, chicken stock, salt, freshly ground pepper, and if you have fresh herbs, by all means use fresh herbs. I have some rosemary and thyme, and of course some finely chopped shallot and garlic. So the first thing we need to do is, in a sauce pot, melt our butter. So I'm using about a tablespoon of butter. And once it's melted and bubbly and lovely, we'll add our shallot and garlic. Shallot first, and let it simmer in the butter for a bit. Once the butter is sizzling and bubbling, add the shallot. We'll give that a couple of minutes. And once that smells glorious, we're going to add our garlic. That's going to take a minute or two. You might at this point want to turn the heat down just a touch. Then we want to add the white wine, and that's about a quarter of a cup of white wine. And we're going to give that a couple of minutes again. So we want it, because it is cold. Sorry, it was refrigerated, as white wine should be. But I had left it out for a bit. I guess it was still just really cold. So let it come back up to a bubble, and we'll continue. Okay, once we've got it back up to a simmer, we're going to let that simmer for about 3 or 4 minutes, and so the wine reduces. Then we will add our chicken stock, herbs, and mustards. Okay, once you've got it reduced by about half, we're going to add our chicken stock. And that's about half a cup. I'm going to reserve a little bit just in case we need more. We got some freshly ground black pepper. And to your preference, I'm not huge on black pepper, but if you like it, add more. A pinch of salt. Then we need our mustards. So we have half a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. I know I should take the rest of the spoons off, but it's just easier to keep them all together so I can find them. Okay, and a half a tablespoon of grainy mustard. Then we want a half a teaspoon of thyme. And I am using dried herbs. If you have fresh, by all means use fresh. And a half teaspoon of rosemary. Give that a good stir in. But now we're going to let that condense for a bit, and we will add the cream. Once you've given this several minutes to reduce, you want it reduced about half, we're going to add some cream. And if you can, warm your cream first. Would only want about a quarter of a cup of cream. Now we're going to bring it back. To a simmer and let it thicken. So this is pistachio crusted pork tenderloin. Let's turn that where you can see it maybe. With a white wine mustard sauce. Let's have a little bit of a taste here. That is lovely. And depending on the size of your pork tenderloin, your cooking time can vary between 45 minutes to an hour and a half. I think to get this to this stage, which is pretty much well done, although still tender and juicy, it was an hour and a half. I often cook my tenderloin a little less, probably 3/4 of an hour. It just depends on how well you like your meat done. And there really is no reason to cook meat well done these days unless you're buying wild meat. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the recipe. If you do, please give the video a like. Consider subscribing and hit the bell icon and you'll know when I put up a new video. I'll see you again soon with another tasty recipe. Thank you so much for watching.